Welcome to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. I'm Joanne Pierce, a female entrepreneur, small business coach, and a creative business owner on a mission to help and inspire other women out there who want to make a decent living doing something they love. If you have your own small business, or maybe you've been thinking about starting one but not sure where to start, then this podcast is for you. I share everything I know about starting a creative business from my own experience of running my handmade stationery company, Vintage Twee. It's as honest and as down to earth as me, and it's an eclectic mix of sound business advice, northern humour, and real life, because it's not easy, is it? This podcast celebrates the selflessness, the strength and resilience of women, because we possess a superpower so great that we can handle whatever life throws at us and come out the other side. We are survivors, we are warriors, and we are as determined as hell to succeed. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. It's special because today I'm introducing you to someone who I swear is a real life earth angel. I don't know if you've ever heard of those people, right? But I believe that they walk amongst us in total disguise. Sometimes we don't even know them until they come into your life at exactly the right time. And you just can't explain how or why they are there and how they did it. But they did, and they're there. And they're helping you in whatever way that you need at that moment. Whether it's a kind word, maybe some advice, maybe they present you with an opportunity, some emotional support, financial help, anything. But you can't explain how they just showed up. It's like a total mystery. But they did. Now, I'm a great believer in people coming into your life for a reason. I don't know if you've ever seen the film Jason and the Argonauts. So it's like the original one from 1963. We used to watch it every Christmas. My mum loved it. But there's a scene in it where the Greek gods, I think it's Zeus and Hera, are playing a game of chess. And the chess pieces are the mortals like you and I. And they move them around as they play. So like they can do whatever they want with them. They can knock them down. They can stand them up again. They can put other chess pieces in their path so that they meet each other. Like they're literally playing games with people's lives. And I always think of this scene when I can't explain how or why someone came into my life. Like it was at the hands of a higher being or something. I don't know. Anyway, this is exactly how I feel about today's guest who is joining me on the podcast. Her name is Coral Turner, and we randomly met on LinkedIn. And she popped up on my list of suggested people to connect with because she's got a handmade business, and it just suggested that I might want to follow her. So I did. I went on her profile, I had a look at what she did, stalked her a bit like we do. And I saw that she was a couture fashion designer based in London. And a few days later, Coral messaged me just to let me know that she'd been on my website, the Her Handmade Hustle one, and there was a broken link on there. So she was just letting me know, which obviously I was very grateful of. It's a new website and I wanted to make sure everything was working. So then we just started messaging each other. And then Coral said that she started listening to my podcast and she was really enjoying it and following my journey and everything. And she just professionally gave me such a boost of confidence. I really needed it. I was feeling a little bit low, wondering if it was any good, if I was any good at it. What was I doing, but also personally, she has been that ray of sunshine and positivity that I've needed at the moment to help me deal with some really difficult emotions of everything that's going on in my life, particularly with my sister and her cancer diagnosis. Coral has just been fantastic. And it's actually really fitting to release Coral's episode today on the 9th of October, as it's the day of my sister's surgery to remove what's left of this god-awful disease and to start getting our lives back on track. So I really wanted to put this episode out there today. I know you are going to love Coral. She's a fellow northerner who moved to London when she was just 19 years old to pursue a dream in fashion design. She works from her studio in Greenwich in London, and she specialises in bespoke women's wear. She does couture ready-made garments as well that are all individually handmade by Coral using all the fabrics that she's picked up on her travels. I can't even sew a button on without falling off 5 minutes later. Like, seriously. But, you know, Coral, she used to be a PA, but now she's a full-time designer. She's living the life that she set out to do when she left Manchester, age 19, you know, and got on that train to follow her heart and go to London. Now, Coral's here to tell you all about her journey as an entrepreneur, and she's got some amazing advice and some hilarious stories, which I know you're going to love hearing. They really made me laugh. I know they will do you too. And she was just a true pleasure to interview. Absolutely loved it. So without any further ado, here's my interview with Coral Turner of Coral Turner Couture. Hello, welcome to the podcast, Coral.
Well, hello, Joanne, and thank you so much for having me here with you today.
Oh, I'm so excited. Right. My God, we have been excited for this like for a couple of weeks now, haven't we? Like we met last week briefly on like a pre-podcast chat, and 2 hours later I emerged from my studio. And my husband was like dying for a wee downstairs. They didn't want to come up because he said you might hear it or the microphone might pick it up. So we're going to try and behave today, aren't we? And keep this to an hour.
Well, we're going to try, but I mean, we're northern lasses, and we're notorious for chatting till the cows come home, and then the sun comes up, and then it's, you know, a week has passed, and kids have starved, and everything else that goes in that. But we are going to, because we've both got busy lives, we are going to be under an hour. But I'm loving it, and I loved our chat last week.
I did too, and we met originally on LinkedIn, and it was my sister who got me to go on LinkedIn because I've been avoiding it for like years. And she said, "You need to get on it. There's people on there that you're going to want to talk to." I was like, "Oh, right, okay." So anyway, I did it, got on it, and then I met you, and it was really weird because I think I was stalking you. Actually, I think I found you first. I was stalking you.
You sent a message out to me, and then because I loved your title, Her Handmade Hustle, I thought, oh, I've got to look into this more. So then I did, and I looked on your website, and then I was saying to you about that broken link that I couldn't find. So I thought,
Yes.
oh, I was going to be about this. So I messaged you back about that. And then I started to listen to your podcast, which just blew me away. And then I had to get in touch with you again because I was saying that normally I'd listen to Radio 4 and their stories in the afternoon when I'm working from home. And your podcast, I kept saying to you, where were you when I started? They were just so brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, so I'm glad you stalked me, but I was doing the reverse as well.
I remember you saying that. I'm listening to you now instead of Radio 4. I was like, yes.
That's right, that's right.
Amazing. And you're right, though. We're both Northern lasses. That's one of the reasons why we, I think, connected. The fact that we've got this Northern connection. We're both very spiritual, like creative
Yeah,
souls that cannot
yeah,
be caged and will not be caged. And that's what we
yeah,
were saying last week. And there's just
yeah.
all these weird synchronicities in our lives, I think.
Oh,
And we were both saying that we believe that people are put in our path for a reason. And I think you were one of those people for me for a number of reasons. But
same here with you.
yeah, exactly. It's so weird, isn't it? But yeah, my daughter's also very impressed that I am friends with a fashion designer now, and she's going on about it, going, "Mummy, can you tell me about the fashion designer lady?" And then
Well,
I'm not surprised because Mummy is not very couture. I walk around in like Primark and Tesco clothes, so you know, you're like, she's in awe of you.
bless her cotton socks, and it's not about that. It's not. Do you know what, because you do vintage and you do vintage very well. I'm impressed because that is an era of clothing there whereby if they was to repeat that now, you'd have more individuality than what you see is out there. So
Yeah.
I respect and I admire your vintage clothing.
Oh, thank you. Yes, vintage from like circa 1999. A lot of my clothes. Can't afford to buy any new ones.
We take our wins where we can get them, Joanne.
We do. And you know, I'm so excited to talk about your business. So, you know, let's tell everybody who you are. So it's Coral Turner Couture.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
So I'm a women's wear designer. So I am Coral of Coral Turner Couture. And as I say to people, so I have two aspects to the business. I have bespoke, which is made to measure. And I also have a couture ready to wear line where I specialize in one of a kind garments. And a lot of people don't quite get the gist of it. So I have an online boutique, and every garment that you see on my online boutique, my website, or in my studio is the only one that I've made and the only one that's available to purchase. So I am looking at dressing individuals, making them the only one in the world.
Oh, fantastic. Oh my God. I mean, what I love about your business is that you really acknowledge the importance of feeling good as a woman.
Oh God.
Um, because it's just from my point of view, particularly, like, I went this weekend for a bra fitting after my operation, and I've not had
Mm.
one since it, and the lady made me feel so confident and so good.
Oh,
um and it's one of those
excellent.
things that I was dreading, and to be put into the hands of somebody that truly cares and is
Yes.
there for you to help fit something to your shape
Yeah.
and to your size is everything, and I don't think you can put a price on that, and that's exactly what you do for women, isn't it?
Oh, totally. Because the way, all right, when you look at it this way, I always say that clothes are our, it's the unspoken. It's how we show up, but also as well, it's the intimacy that we get through our clothing, how we treat ourselves, how we present ourselves to the world, and it is our armor.
Yeah,
And especially when it comes to, for me, when it comes to bespoke, which is whereby I'm taking people's personal measurements, or even when it's my one-off pieces from the ready to wear, I'm always talking to that individual. I'm always talking to how I want them to feel. We use these buzzwords, empowerment, and we and our authentic selves, but I truly want for women to feel, um as they stand in a garment from myself, or whether it be from something that they've bought, whether it be the high street or another boutique, it's important that they feel in love with themselves. That is the truest sense of the word. Because if you're not, then you're missing out. You're really missing out on your identity, what it
yeah,
is to be who you are. And and I haven't met a woman yet that gets up in the morning and says, "Oh, what can I take out the wardrobe that's going to make me look really terrible?"
mhm,
Because that makes sense, because it doesn't. We all, you know, we are all our own peacocks. We want to, we're not just, it's not just about dressing, whether it be for the opposite sex, it's about dressing for you from a place of confidence. And especially if a woman's body has transitioned, whether it be through breast cancer, whether it be through the menopause, whether it be that she's had a child and her weight has adjusted, she's still that beautiful woman inside. But it may not be what she through her own mindset is seeing in the mirror. And
yeah,
your clothes are going to help to elevate that, but you have to be able to be in support of yourself when it comes to that conversation that you're having with yourself with clothes. So as you can see, yes, I do feel like the psychiatrist and the therapist when it comes to
mhm.
clothes.
I bet you do. You are, yeah, exactly. The psychiatrist of clothes. I love it. That could be your title.
Yes,
Get that on your website. But
actually.
it's true because it is. People come to you, I'd imagine, obviously low in confidence. They are feeling, just like you say, not sure of themselves, a bit like I was at the weekend, nervous, and you're there to help them feel good about themselves, and it affects your mood. It affects your mood daily, like you said. It affects
Yeah.
your mood. How you feel on the outside affects how you feel on the inside.
Yeah.
And it's like after my operation, I was just wearing sacks, like anything that I could
Yeah.
fit in. And I felt awful. Like I felt ill for four
Yeah.
months. Even
Yeah.
though I wasn't actually ill, I was recovering. But I was like, that's all I could get on, these loose shirts and these
Yeah.
loose jogging bottoms. And I couldn't wait to get back into normal clothes. And I still can't get in my jeans. That's just the way it is at the moment. But to have
Yeah.
someone like you who would be there to help me and women like me is just an absolutely fantastic thing to do.
Oh, bless you.
Um, and I want to tell everybody how you started because it's such a good story. And you actually lived in Manchester, didn't you? So you're not
I am.
anymore. You're in London now.
I live in London now, but I've got a northern heart. I came
Mm.
back from Manchester yesterday,
Okay.
having spent 4 days there, and it was rain free until I left. So Manchester's doing really well. But so my starting point was, well, there's so many stops and starts in relation to where I'm coming from, but the pivotal moment for me was when my dad had passed. It was, and that was 2010. And even though I'd been working part time as a PA, and I'd been sewing on the side as well. I got to my now or never. When are you actually going to do this? When are you going to set this up full time and actually run with it? So 2010, I decided I'd just finished doing a course at London College of Fashion, and as I was leaving the building, I thought, well, there is no other time. There is only now. So I decided, I took all my savings, and I decided I was going to launch this business, and it would be set up and launched within 24 hours, which was not a reality at all. And in relation to that, and then I'd have this website. So my website was launched in 2011, and I thought that when they press that button to say go live,
Mhm.
that's it. It all happens then. I'd had the
You don't you?
photograph done. I'd got the garments ready. I'm ready for the world to see who I am. So when it went live, that I think it was a Tuesday morning, if I remember rightly, and then I sat back and I just waited for the first email to come in to say I want to buy that dress. And then that Tuesday turned into several other Tuesdays where nothing was happening, and I thought, hang on a minute, what's going on? What's going on here? And it was all the things, oh, Joanne, it was all the things nobody had told me about when you set up
Yeah,
a website. I
yeah.
didn't realize, I mean, even down to my photography, I look back now and I can laugh at the first images that I had. I had on a mannequin, and some of them, so with this mannequin, the mannequin was half dressed, and a girlfriend of mine that's also in fashion, she's going to me, you do realize that mannequin is half naked, and you can't really be putting half naked images of a mannequin, showing top end, couture garments, and then you've got a really dodgy background with this sheet, this bed sheet that was unpressed, and yet I'm selling 500, 600 pound dresses,
Oh, so funny.
wondering why, wondering why people aren't rushing to me, you know.
That's so funny. Oh my God.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And then, like I said, it's all the things I didn't know. I mean, what on earth was SEO? What was
Yeah,
search engine optimization? What were keywords? And
yeah.
I tell you, that rabbit hole, it's so deep. And as I said to you last week, I went back to the drawing board so many times that I had to chuck out the drawing board and get a new drawing board altogether. And it was nothing. Everything I had this perfect business plan written out.
Mm.
I'd been able to use my savings, get an additional business bank loan as well, and nothing was as it said it would be
No,
on my business plan, and that
no.
was my shock. So
And
when I
that's
it will work. So when I first listened to your podcast, when you started to talk about these pitfalls, and that's why I'm saying, where were you when I started out in 2011? This was the voice that I needed to hear, you know, and you come from such a place of clarity and truth, and this is why, and I still, up to this day, I still stand by everything that you've said from the first podcast that I listened to, about all the pitfalls that we go through as business owners, and nobody tells you those things.
you don't. You say you sit there and you wait for the sales to roll in, don't you? And you think, where is everybody? I've pressed I'll go live. I'm live now. I've sent it to, my auntie. I've sent it to my sister, and no one's bought anything. Exactly. You don't
Yeah,
realise it takes a while. Well, it takes months and months, sometimes years to build
oh,
up.
it
And you have
is.
to get that presence out there. And it's so much more than just being on social media and having a website. It's about constantly not taking your foot off the gas and pushing it
Yes,
outside of that, getting out there,
yes,
getting to know people,
yes.
talking to people, not relying on all these posts and stuff on social media. It's just not enough
Yeah,
now.
yeah, you're right. But you see, the thing is that nobody's telling you that.
No, they're
You know,
not.
it's one of those situations. It's like, you know how you could get a group of women together, and one of them becomes pregnant, or a group of women are together, and they're all pregnant, and then a new one comes to it, but nobody's prepared to tell you what you're going to go
Hmm.
through,
Yeah.
because they feel that, well, you need to join our pain in order to be able to have the experience, as opposed to, if you just tell me beforehand, I can be better prepared.
Exactly.
So, and I, in a lot of ways, having a business is giving birth. It's giving birth to something that, and especially because it's something so personal to you. And
Yeah.
this is one of the things that you approach so well, where you was talking about not being not comparing yourself to others,
Mhm.
making sure that you're pricing right. And these are all of the intimidations that we face and our own self-doubts when we
Yeah.
first start up in business. And there isn't, even with the best intentions of the world, in the world, of somebody holding your hand, they're still not able to get under your skin
Mm.
to be able to focus on the mindset that is
Yeah.
saying to you, have I done the right thing?
Yeah, that's right. You never know, do you? And you
Mhm.
just follow your heart. And I think that's what makes us different as self-employed people. We've got
Yeah.
that kind of quality inside of us. We don't quit. We keep going, and we know it's right for us. But I mean, you were only 19, weren't you, when you moved to
Yeah,
London?
when I came to London, you see, I was told that I used to read my Jackie magazine, and I was told the streets were paved with gold, and I thought that okay, fine, everything happens at One King's Reach Tower, and let me come to London and find what's going to happen. But when I got here, it was a complete culture shock away from my northern roots, where we say good morning, please, and thank
Yes,
you. That was the norm, and this whole I come to London and I've heard it's fast, but it was taking the mickey. The
really.
thing where you're standing on the escalator and you can only stand on one side, because if you stand on the other side, if you stand on the left, that's it, you'll get run over by the people that are coming down the stairs, wondering why you don't move out the way. But if you stand, but you're supposed to stand on the right. But and I did get very homesick, and it was the event was, so I'm getting ready to leave and I go and I see a friend of mine, and so I go and see this girlfriend of mine, and to protect her, I'll call her Barbara. So I go and see my
Yeah,
friend Barbara,
good old Babs.
and and I go and see Babs, and I go to her house, and I say to her dad, "Where's Babs?" And he says, "Oh, she's in the kitchen washing the dishes." So I went, "Okay." So I go and I see her, and I says, "Oh, hi, I'm going now." And she goes, "Oh, you off then?" So I says, "Yeah." She goes, "All right then." She says, "I'll see you soon," and that was it. So I get my bags together. I've got my teddy bear, my suitcase, and my gold tote bag,
You're
and
like,
exactly. This is it. I'm off to for my challenge. This greater new way of being. And then I'm still in touch with my mum and dad, and they're saying to me that you'll be all right, and because you've got to bear in mind my parents are West Indian, they're Jamaican. They made the transition from Jamaica to England, so
yeah, great.
it's now my turn. So
Yeah.
I'm moving from Manchester to London. I'm staying at my mum's cousin, and that's a whole other podcast altogether. But,
Part
so
two.
so I stay there temporarily, and then I move into a bedsit, and that was a real eye opener and a shock. So 6 months in, and I just thought, I don't really know if this is for me. So I'm telling my mum and dad, and then I come back home, and then I go and see my friend Babs. And I knock on the door, and her dad opens the door. And I says, "Where's Babs?" And he goes to me, "She's in the kitchen washing the dishes." And I go to the back, and I see her, and I just thought, are you telling me 6 months later you're exactly where I left you? And even as tough as it was for
So
me
funny.
to deal with this whole homesickness, and I don't know if it's going to be for me. I just couldn't come back to what would then be my norm,
Yeah.
because that's just not who I am. It's not
No.
about the norm. It is about the risks that you have to take. It wasn't, I mean, coming to London wasn't the adventure that I thought it would be, because it was such a huge wake up call. I mean, it's made me street smart.
Yeah.
And but I had to also bear in mind that I didn't want to lose my northern roots and integrity, my please, my thank you, my hello, my good mornings. I didn't want to lose that aspect of myself. And I keep coming up north to make sure that I get those weekly or monthly inflections, and check that my accent's still in place as well. So
Absolutely. It is. It is.
so all those things. So yeah, it was a shock. But in fair play to London, I am so glad that I have made that transition. I really, really am, because I do not believe I would be the designer
Mm.
I am today if I didn't take that leap of faith.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a lovely story and it's such a brave thing to do, at 19 years old. Because didn't your dad say that, what was it that he said about being a secretary or something instead?
And this is it. Well, you see, my brother had done fashion design, and my dad said, and it didn't work out for him. And my dad says, "Oh no, we're not having two unemployed fashion designers in this house. You're going to do a secretarial course." And I thought to myself, but I don't want to be a secretary.
I
And I don't
know,
want to do a secretarial course. But
no,
fair play to him, he had his wits about him because he knew. I mean, it's a secretarial course that I then ended up doing as a freelancer. And it enabled me to go and temp in companies that had I probably applied for a full-time job, I might not have got a look in.
yeah,
As a result of being a temp and working at all these different amazing companies, from different fashion houses to businesses, and being able to be behind the scenes, that's what gave me my business savvy. So I
didn't,
was able to hone in on my sales skills, the
yeah,
sales skills that I didn't know that I had until I'd started doing sales, my ability to be able to communicate, to work with other people, to see how businesses are run and how not to run them, helping other people set up their businesses. Yeah, yeah. So so my dad knew what he was doing at that point in time.
yes. They always do, don't they? It's really annoying.
Yes,
You always,
isn't
you always know best. It's true. Always right. Do you know, my mum said to me, right, when I started Vintage Tree, so I did it in the back room of their old house
it?
where I grew up and where I was living back at the time after my first
Mm.
marriage broke up. And I remember her coming into the bedroom and I was there making these little cupcake sticks that turned out to be my bestseller 15 years later. I've made millions of them, right? And she came in and she looked at me and she had a paper in her hand, a newspaper.
Yeah.
And she said, Joanne, I found a job for you at Steppenhill Hospital, which is our local hospital, where I used to work when I was like 17, 18. She said, I think maybe you should go for it. It's like an admin role. She said, just in case this doesn't work out. And I remember feeling so hurt by it. And I said, Mum, I said, this is going to work out. I said, I am going to do this. I said, and if that job's still there or something similar in 6 months' time, then I will look at it. I said, but right now I'm starting a business. And she left the bedroom. And then, like, I think a week later, I got my first order. And I was like, yes.
Oh,
And it worked.
wonderful.
And then I didn't look back from that point. And I was so glad I didn't take that job at the hospital because I don't think I would
Oh,
have done the business now.
well, but the thing is, Joanne, though, the thing that people don't seem to take into consideration for self-employed sole traders is that, so you've got a full-time job and you're 9 to 5 and you get paid holidays and you get paid time off sick and all of those others, what we would consider to be luxuries.
Yeah.
And our day doesn't stop at 5,
No,
and our day doesn't start at 9 either.
no, it doesn't.
So, so there's not that structure that is put in place for you as an employee of a company.
Yeah.
And it's not berating anybody that is an employee of a company at all. But what I'm saying is that it is so much. It is a hard road to tread when
Yeah.
you decide to become self-employed and a sole trader, and you've got to be able to, as they would say, put your big girl panties up and really hone in on your skills, because if you're not going to be in it for the long haul, then just don't do that to yourself. You've got to
Yeah,
be in it
it's
for the
hard.
long haul.
You
It is.
do, and it's really hard. And there are days when you just think, why am I even doing this? And you make no
Yeah,
money. Some months I've made no money, and you think, oh my God, or I made very limited.
yeah,
And other months I've had the best I've ever made. So you just don't know what's going to come in, and you have to be prepared for that uncertainty, I think. And if you're someone that likes certainty and predictability in this kind of thing, then it's not for you, is it? It's you've
no,
got to be able to
no,
ride the storm for sure.
no,
I mean, like for you, we were talking last time when we chatted briefly about your products, your clothes are high end. You
yeah.
are a couture fashion designer, so you're producing really high end bespoke items. So, how do you deal with like pricing and being confident in your pricing when you get customers, obviously, that come along and they may question it? How do you know your own worth?
Well, at the end of the day, so one of the things that I actually worked out. So I did a few I did a few workshops about how to do your pricing, but also as well, I look at it from the viewpoint of the quality of the fabrics that I use, the time that I put in. I can't charge for the research and development because that's something that whereby whether I've, something hasn't gone according to my plan, I can't factor that in. All I can do is I can look at that as something to learn from. I have my set fees. So when it comes to my bespoke, I'll have my set fees to making their toiles and the starting process. And I make people aware of that from the very beginning, because if you're going to be uncomfortable with the starting parameters that are needed for a bespoke garment, then you're definitely not going to be happy, when it comes to the end of it. And your bespoke garment can be costing you anything from £1,200 to £3,000
Yeah.
upwards. It depends on the fabric that's used, and it depends on the time that's going to be involved. So
Yes.
what I've done is why I have the ready to wear collection as well, which still has the same amount of time and love put into it, is whereby I'm looking at, for those people that don't necessarily want to go the route of bespoke, where you can still have a high-end quality garment made to a high finish, individually made. That's the other thing as
Always.
well. Yeah, so everything is individually made from the beginning, from the start to the end. I make the patterns, I'm doing all the fittings. So it's that one person, I'm that one point of contact. And would I want to change that? Not at this point in time, because I enjoy I enjoy the whole process. I
Yeah.
enjoy the whole process of sewing, the pattern making. So, and in terms of going back to what you were saying about how do you do your pricing, it's not a case of looking at what is somebody else charging out there. I have my own production timesheets. I look at how many hours it's taken me to produce something. What is the hourly rate that I've factored into that to
Yeah.
be able to come to my end conclusion? And I have to stick with those parameters, because 8 hours is still 8 hours. If I'm
Mhm.
undercharging myself to make somebody comfortable, I'm making myself uncomfortable. And we cannot hide away from the fact that when something is handmade, it takes on a different level of premiumship because
Mhm.
of that. It's not the same as, as I said, not being disparaging to anybody or any country or anything. It's not the same as getting something made in China. It's
Yeah.
not about being, and we can't even use the term cheap as chips, because chips aren't cheap anymore.
They're absolutely not. Or £3.95 for a bowl and Weatherspoons of the day, and he'll hit the roof.
You can come to London and you could pay 15 to 20 quid for fish and chips. I know
No.
a lot of Northerners now have passed out, but that's the norm. But
Mm.
your pricing is what your pricing is. And if you I feel it's a false economy to undercut yourself, thinking that you are going to make more sales by charging less. You're going to do more work, you're going to charge less, you're going to have burnout, and you're still not going to be able to meet your targets at the end of the day.
You're absolutely
It's
right.
false reality.
And we shouldn't have to justify our prices, should we? And that's the thing. And I think a lot of people, when they're starting out in business, they're always wondering, oh, is that person going to pay for this? Is it worth it? Have I factored this in? Have I factored that in? They're never sure what to charge. But actually, like what you said, be comfortable. If you're not comfortable, that's not right. Like, don't worry about what the other person is feeling.
Yeah,
If they want it, they will buy it. And if they
yeah.
don't, they don't. So, I think you do right. And I remember you saying, we were talking about a magazine that contacted you last time,
Oh,
weren't we?
yeah.
About one of your pieces, and they wanted it for free as such.
Yes.
You told them where to go.
Yeah, well, I had to, because you see, this is what made me laugh. So I've got this company ringing me up, and they're saying to me that the editor likes one of my dresses, and can she have it? And she's going to write about it. And I said, so what do you mean, can she have it? Well, what she'd like is that she would like me to send in that dress for free, and they will write about it. And I thought, well, and I said to them, I can write about it myself. I actually do write blogs, so I don't have a problem with writing. And then it was and then I says to her, I says, I don't get it. I says, are you getting paid? And she said, yeah. I says, and is the editor getting paid? And she goes, yeah. I says, well, why don't you want to pay me? And then she said, well, that's not how it's done. I says, well, what do you mean that's not how it's done? She goes, well, in the fashion industry, we're used to getting things for free. And I says, well, not in my world. It doesn't work that way for me.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, if I'm producing something, somebody's going to get something at the end of it.
Quite
So
right.
why, and I've paid for the fabric, I've put my time in. You're going to give me a write up, great, that may or may not go somewhere. But in the meantime, I'm giving away my work for free. That means I'm devaluing what it is that I'm doing. And I know that there's lots of companies out there that will give things to celebrities for free, which is fine because that's their prerogative. However, for small businesses like ourselves,
Mhm.
sometimes that's another way of undercutting yourself
Yes.
without actually being able to see the benefits or the reward from it. So it's on a principle thing. And then I remember telling you briefly about an incident that I had where I worked behind the scenes for a particular television company,
Mhm.
and they're able to, get lots of garments that are either sponsored or for free for certain celebs, and they wear them on that occasion. And then there was this particular day where I'm doing the work in wardrobe, and this particular presenter, she took the garments off and she threw it on the floor and she just walked across the floor on it. And I just thought, well, hang on a minute, that's not right. But in the meantime, she had this really undesirable cardigan because it had seen better days. That's the best way I can put it. And she hung it up and on this rail, and she took it off and she lovingly put it on. And I said, so I don't get it. And she goes, what? I said, why did you just walk across all those clothes? You know, and that cardigan that could actually do with a burial, you're putting it on. And then she turned around, and this was the classic. She goes to me, but I didn't have to pay for those clothes. I had to pay for that cardigan. And I thought to myself,
Unbelievable.
are you telling me it's that simple? You value it because you paid for it, but the other things that you didn't have to pay for have no value.
My gosh.
And how often do we find ourselves doing that?
Yeah.
If something is for free, how much attention do we give it because it's free as opposed to the thing that we've had to pay for? And
Yeah.
I have to say, that was my wake up call, and it just, and it was, and it's, the person didn't mean anything by it, but I really valued her truth because that helped me as a business owner,
It's helped
and
me since you told me that story as well. I always think twice about things now. It's like whether I paid for it or not, it's very important to respect the garments.
respect the garments, respect your work, respect yourself. And equally so, because I mean, the sad thing is that we live in an age whereby we're in such a throwaway
Yeah.
society, we're forgetting what it is to value things of value.
Yes. I agree.
And it's not just on programs like Flog It that that we can, oh, I've had this sitting in the drawer for X amount of years, what's it worth? you know we came from, we used to come from a society where we was aspirational. We saved up for things. And I'm not saying that you can't put things on your credit card. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that if we don't value things, then we make things valueless, and that makes no sense. So this is why, but this is why vintage clothes. You can come to Greenwich in London, and the vintage clothes in the shops there can be the same as what you paid for a brand new designer outfit. And it's because, and even though that outfit may be 30, 40, 50 years old, the fabric still lasted the test of time, the style is still relevant, and in actual fact, you're probably going to be more distinctive in that vintage outfit than you will be in today's mass production, run of the mill, same as, same as, same as, same as.
I
And
agree.
that's the difference,
And
So
that's what you're saying. Your clothes last a lifetime, don't they?
they
They do.
are.
They're timeless.
They are, that is it, and that's exactly. See, I don't work to seasons or trends. I don't believe in seasons or trends. I believe that in timelessness. I believe that the day that that person buys that top, and that is the time. When
Yeah.
they buy that dress, that is the time, and it's supposed to last the test of time. So it's not fitting into somebody else's trend as to this is what's trending at the moment, and we can't wear that now. Because if you think about it, vintage is always in fashion,
Always.
always,
Yeah, I
no
agree.
matter what,
Absolutely. Um,
and that is a clever bit of marketing for a fashion era that has still lasted its test of time.
mm,
And
yes.
and I'm a woman now that's turned 60, and I would still wear vintage, from the 40s before I was born, people, because I did stay 60.
Oh my God, you do not look 60s, just so you know. Looking good on it, Coral. But no, you're right. Like this whole throwaway society. I always say this to my husband. Like it's such a disposable society that we live in
Mm,
now. And some of the toys that like my little girl gets, they break instantly. And I think
yes.
paid like £5 for that, and it's broken and it's in the bin. And sometimes she goes, oh, well, and she puts it in the bin. And I say, well, no, actually, we've bought that. That should last. And it
Yeah.
really annoys me. It's just like plastic tap that just goes in the bin.
Yes.
But, you know, when I was little, I think I must have been about 8, I wanted this post office set. And it was like,
Oh,
it was like a tabletop thing, and it
uh-huh.
had little drawers and a stamp. And I wanted it was in Argos, I think, and I wanted it so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
But I remember it being £15, and at the time, I think I only got like £1 pocket money a week or something. So I had to save up for 15
Yeah.
weeks to get this bloody post office, right? Anyway, I did it. In the end, I got to £15, and it was on a Wednesday when my dad was off work, and I said, Dad, I've got this £15 together, and he said, right, we'll go to Argos and we'll buy it. Anyway,
Oh,
he bought it me, and I'm not kidding you. It's the one toy that I remember throughout my childhood. Like, it was the best thing ever because I'd saved up for it, and it was mine, and it meant so much to me. And I
um,
just think now we just don't have that. Like, we
no,
just don't have that sort of mentality, and it's sad.
no.
And we were also talking a little bit about this revival of handmade, weren't we, and old-fashioned skills,
Yes, yes, yeah.
because
But
both of us are like that.
but
Work with
that,
hands.
but also just to go back on that point whereby the toy that you saved up for was a post office, whether you realize it or not, you were always going to be an entrepreneur.
True.
You know, you didn't save up for a doll, you saved up for a post office,
I
you
did.
know,
You're right.
for a business. So that
Good
is,
point.
you know, that in itself shows that you was a natural entrepreneur and was going
Yeah.
to go into business at some stage. I love that story. I mean, we didn't get to
Well,
share it on last week, but that was fantastic.
yeah, it's one of those that I'll see if I can find a root out a picture of it. I don't even know if we had a
Yeah.
camera back then, but it was. I just remember my mum used to be my only customer, and she would come in, and I'd be stamping up, I'd be like, "Mum, come back to the post office. What do you want now?" And she'd go, "Oh, I'll have a book of 4 first class stamps, please." And she used to save them all up for me, like real stamps, and then I'd like file them away in my post office, and I got it. She'd try and get in the kitchen to cook, and I'd be like, "Mum, come back, I need a customer." It's like a little thing, isn't it? I have no friends. So yeah, you're right. Maybe I was destined to own a post office.
Yeah, either that or a business, but you know, a
Yeah.
business whereby because you know a business that you put your stamp on, which
Yeah.
is exactly
Oh
what you've
yes.
done.
Oh, I love it.
You know,
Absolutely. You know, it's so
definitely,
true.
definitely.
Maybe that's it. But yeah, I mean, we were saying about, say, working with our hands, these old fashioned
Yes.
skills and stuff. And yours is something I wish I'd learned how to sew. I really do. But it's such a skill. It's such a skill, and I think that's coming back. We were talking
Eh,
about how handmade sort of died down a little bit, um, and it's getting replaced so much by digital things.
eh,
However, there is still that need and that desire to have something that's made with somebody's hands.
well, you know, the thing is, you'll always need your hands to sew on a button.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're taking it to the dry cleaners or even to turn up a hem. I not only sew for my business, I also teach sewing as well.
Oh, do
And
you?
yeah, so we did a class called it was all about making and mending, and it was the things that I take for granted as a sewer, i.e., sewing on a button, doing a hem, are things that were quite new to people. So it was quite a shock to me to find out that you got to bear in mind I'm coming from an era whereby at secondary school sewing was all part of the curriculum. The same with home economics. You didn't leave school without being able learning to cook or being able to sew. And when we look at how these skill sets have been eroded and that they're being taken out of the curriculum, and these are life skills. You know, I'm saying that everybody's going to want to be a fashion designer or want to sew, but they are if you know if you've got a tent and you're out in the middle of nowhere and it's got a hole in it, it would
Hmm.
help to be able to stitch it. You know, if you're out if you're camping and you know how to cook, it helps to feed yourself. So so these things that you're taking out of the school curriculum that are relevant. And you know, there are studies that are shown that when children are encouraged to be creative, it creates its own stimuli, and it also helps with anxiety, it helps with stress, it
Hmm.
helps to alleviate and helping them with social skills as well. So the fact that, you know, it's a madness that you take out the things that help you to develop, put in more digital this, digital that, digital the other. And don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to technology, but technology cannot be so far ahead that it removes everything else that makes you human. that allows you to be able to connect with your roots. I mean, something as simple as children learning that potatoes or French fries don't just come from McDonald's. And I know we're not advertising for places like that. They come
Yeah,
from a potato, and a potato came from the ground. You'd be surprised at the amount of kids that don't actually know that. And to me, that's crazy. That's crazy. How can you not know that?
exactly. And I think we've got a responsibility to the younger generation to teach
Yeah.
them things about these lost skills, because we don't want them to die out. My niece, she's 8, and she has taken up sewing after school.
Woo!
No, and it's amazing. Like, she showed me something, and it was like, I can't remember what it was. Oh, she was making like a campfire, little bits for a campfire, and they were sewing fire pieces, they were sewing logs.
Yeah.
Showed him, and I was like, "You've made that? Like, that's amazing." I can't sew. I get my dad to sew a button on my tops. Honestly, he sews holes in all my trousers and stuff like that. Like, he just does it. But I wish I knew how to do it, but I am rubbish at it. And they should be teaching these skills so that they have got these life skills,
Yeah.
because they are what you need.
Definitely, definitely. And it's
Yeah.
things such as, I mean, so when I was at school, there was woodwork, there was metal work,
Yeah.
and I did woodwork as well. And, all of these, and these are all things where you're using your mind, you're
Yes.
using your ability to do calculations. So that's embedding maths, the ability to be able to read a diagram, that's embedding English. So
Mm-hmm.
and also as well, having something at the end of it, as, this tangible product that you can say, I made this. That to me, that is a big thrill for a child. It's like a child when they've done a painting, and this painting to you looks like an abstract, but to them, they can see the house, the moon, the stars. That's a dog, and you're thinking, oh, I thought that was an elephant, but no, a dog. And all of these things are so relevant. There's a friend of mine, her name's Colleen, and she's just turned 90. She does amazing cross stitch. And when you see it's like the tapestries that you'd see, that where they come from the days of William the Conqueror, that you'd see in the museums. And her cross stitch, her tapestry, is the detail in it is so wonderful. And and I looked at, when she first showed me, I thought, oh, that's very straightforward. Count a few squares. Oh my gosh, I did not believe that, that something that appears on the surface to be so simple was so complex and complicated. But it's the thinking process behind it, and the work that she produces as a result is fantastic. So
Oh, it's amazing.
it is. And this is, like I
Amazing.
said, a woman in her 90s, and we want to keep our brains active until it's time for us to go to the other side, so to
That's
speak.
right, absolutely. Me and you'll be sewing up until your last moment. So I'll probably still have a
I
glue gun on
intend
my
to.
hand until I'm
I
90.
intend to.
If I make it
Well,
that
I expect stationery from you, and then some,
far. Of
until that,
course.
exactly, until that, end of days, and then we'll be doing it on the other side.
And if I go first, I expect a lovely garment.
Well, I've been told by my family that they're going to bury me with my sewing machine and my sewing books as well, so that when I get to the other side, I can be sewing for the angels. So I thought, yeah,
Oh,
that works fine for me.
I love that. It's one of the reasons why we connected as well, is that we're both quite spiritual people,
Very,
and I find that's really important. I think you get that a lot with creative souls as well, and that's why we just
yeah.
feel this need to express ourselves all the time through our art and how we do stuff. And yeah, that's a part of me that will never change, and the same for you as well. And we can't be caged, can we? As I
No,
said.
not at all. And you're so right about the spiritual aspects and creativity, about how they work hand in hand.
Mhm.
Because anything that you do that is heartfelt is coming from a much more, as far as I'm concerned, a much higher consciousness.
Yeah,
Because, sometimes you're producing something, you're thinking, where did I get that idea from?
yeah,
What was my muse? How did that come to me? And it's in those moments of doubt, and the darkness whereby you might find yourself wondering, is this the right thing for me to do, that you have to dig so much deeper within yourself. And that is whereby you're looking at forces unknown to yourself, whatever your religion or persuasion is, or non-religion, that are helping you to take you through that tunnel, because you have to know that there is going to be light on the other side. You have to know that. Otherwise, you're going to stay in this place of darkness. And how are you going to pull yourself out of it? And your business is your business is very much a part of you, and it's about learning not to take things personally, but do take them spiritually. Come from a higher perspective. It's like when yeah, but you look at it this way, Joe. I was thinking about our conversation this morning. So I'm in the bathroom, brushing my teeth, thinking about all the things we're going to talk about and how much time we've actually got in reality. And then I was thinking about how business is, people talk about it, the seed that you plant and how the seed needs to germinate. And we don't keep pulling the seed out to see if it's got any roots. You have to leave it, and it stays in that darkness for quite some time until it starts to blossom. And that's the same for us, because as I said, that our business, an overnight success is years in the making. It is not this, as is given to you, this 24-hour turnaround that people would have you believe. I've
Yeah.
been working on my business. So if you bear in mind, I've been self-employed since the year 2000. So that's 24 years.
Wow.
However, I set up my business in 2011. And it's now in 2024 that I'm really starting to see the fruits of my labor. So
Exactly.
that's been a long process. That's been a lot of, is it beans or is it toast or is it beans and toast tonight? You know?
Pretty much our shopping list one month to the next, Excuse me, you just don't know, do you,
You
what it's going to be like?
don't.
And eventually it will come. And I think it's really driving home that point to women that who are thinking of starting a business, or maybe who have started a business and they think it's not happening for them.
Yes.
You have to keep going, because the difference between people who succeed and fail are the ones who stick on the right track and you keep going, and you will succeed. You just have to be patient. And I have to tell myself that sometimes as well, not with the
Yeah.
stationery business, that's established, and and that's fine, but with my
Yeah.
other business, and helping women, it's been a year in the making, and only just now have I started to get podcast guests like
Excellent.
yourself. And it's taken off and it's working, but you have to stick out and you
Excellent.
have to be patient.
Excellent.
um,
And you also, the thing is, you don't know how close you are to your mountaintop. And if you were to stop and turn back, then you know that that's it. And I would say to anybody listening that if you're thinking of stopping, I'd get you to ask yourself this question: what would you do instead? And also, as well, the other question that I'd like you to ask yourself is, if today was to be your last day on earth, what would you want to be doing? And if it's to be doing something that you really love, great, fair play to you. And if you have to think about, well, would I really want to be doing this? Then that's when you need to start questioning why you're doing what you're doing.
oh,
Because we're only here for this. Is this? It goes back to all the cliches that our parents have used. This isn't a dress rehearsal.
no.
This is the one shot,
Yeah.
and this is our opportunity to and it's not make it or break it, it's to make it. I talk from the viewpoint of climbing your mountaintop, and if you're going to slip back, you're going to slip back lots of times, and that's okay. And it's when people like you, Joanne, come on board with a podcast that tells people it's okay to fail, it's okay for it not to work out first time, and it's okay to go back a second time and a third time and a fourth time. Just don't give up. And this is why what you do is so important. That voice of encouragement. When I was sitting there listening and I'm sewing, and I'm there and I'm going, yeah, that's right, that's so right. Short of me high fiving everything that you were saying and knocking over my laptop, it was it was one of those. It was so important, and I thought, how many other women feel this way?
Mm.
How many other women? You took away that loneliness that
Oh,
we as craft people have to deal with, because nobody's having that. We're not having that conversation
no one there
together.
to talk to, is there, across the desk, and to say, is this normal? Should I be feeling
Yes,
like this? You
yes,
know,
yes,
that's
exactly.
it.
You
That's what
know,
I want it to be for people. I'm not one of these people that will come on and say, you're going to make six figures in 6 months' time, because you're not. Like, realistically, it's not going to happen unless you have a lucky break.
yeah.
But for most of us, we have to work hard at it and endure these ups and downs. And there's a lot of downs, there are. It's
Well,
like there's a lot of beans on toast going on in the house.
there is, but there's so much, there's so many more wins as a result. And you also, as well, I always say to people, pay attention to the signs, look at the synchronicity. So I remember the a beautiful one is when I first set up my studio, and I kept thinking to myself, oh, I'm gonna have to go back and get double up on everything that I've got from home, and now I've got to pay out again. So I've got to have another machine at the studio, another scissors, everything that I've got at home. I've now got to duplicate and have at the studio. And a beautiful friend of mine, Kay, her sister Betty had passed away. And Kay rings me up from Bath and she says to me, you couldn't do me a favour, could you? And I says, what is it? And she says, I've got all Betty's stuff and I don't want it to go to charity. Do you think you could take it off my hands? And I says, well, yeah, sure, if I can help. So I drive to Bath, and then it transpires that everything that I need for my studio, Betty has there. Even though
No,
she's crossed over, it's all there for me. Another sewing machine, scissors, threads, the whole caboodle. You
wow,
just couldn't make it up. And
that is unbelievable.
it's beautiful. And it's times like that that you realize that you are being looked after. That there are those forces out there that know what you need. And and for you it might be, well, I needed it yesterday, but it came the following day, but it still came.
It's
You know,
okay.
and,
Yeah.
and also as well, I'd like to say to people to understand what it is to be grateful, to have gratitude in everything that you do, every moment of every day. Be grateful, because you're here because that you've got work to do. So do the work.
Do the work. Oh my gosh, absolutely love that, Coral. I mean, I don't want to say goodbye, but I do want to ask you one more thing
Yeah,
before you go.
yeah.
What's next for Coral Turner Couture? What's next
Well,
for you, you know?
what? As a result of being inspired by you, so check this out. Talk about synchronicity again, right? So I got an email about setting up podcasts, and I thought, no, seriously. And I thought, what? And I thought, well, what would I talk about? And I thought to myself, but hang on a minute. I've been doing this series about forgotten fashionistas, women from the
Yeah.
craft industry that nobody's really talking about. And I thought, oh, maybe I could do it on that. So there's that aspect of it. I've also got my accessories. So I've got my website and shop and the Coral Turner studio, but also as well I'm doing accessories, scarves and little bits and pieces, but I'm putting them on another platform as well. And I'm in the process of putting together my business book of inspiration, which is
Um,
really, it's about all the mistakes I made so other people don't have to make them. So those are the things that are in the wings. That's the best way for me to put it.
it's so exciting. And if anybody wants to find out more, I'm going to put a link to your website on the show notes of
Oh,
this
thank
podcast
you.
episode so they can come and visit your website and have a look at what you do. They can go and stalk you on social media like I did. We all like a stalker, don't we?
The creative kind, yes. The
And yeah, exactly.
way.
So I'll put all the details on there. Obviously, anyone that is in the area where you're, is it Tameside Studios that you work? Is that
Inside
right?
Studios, which is in Woolwich, so it's in between Cholton and Woolwich, is where I'm
Yeah,
based. So when it comes to making a studio appointment, it is by appointment only.
yeah.
And when you go on the website, if you want to get in touch, just email me info@coralturner.com. And also as well, I'm doing lots of updates on LinkedIn and things like that. So pay attention to those ones as well. But yeah, I
Definitely.
have to say, before you have to go, Joanne, I have absolutely loved chatting to you.
Me too.
Absolutely. I mean, we've gone off tangent. We've come back. We've gone round the world and back again. And as I said from the very beginning, I really admire and appreciate what it is that you've done for us, small business owners who needed that support by setting up her handmade hustle. So
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
you.
No,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Coral. Oh, God, don't start me off. I'm way too emotional for this. Honestly, I just think that we met for a reason and it's just been an
Bless.
absolute. I'm hoping we could do a part two of this at some point, delve into
Oh,
something else. Yeah, on your podcast when you get going as well. I want to be a guest.
yes, without a doubt, without a doubt.
Oh, good. Well, thanks so much for joining me. And yeah, I will put all the details of how to contact Coral on the show notes of this podcast episode. For anybody that wants to get in touch, do just drop her an email. She'll keep you talking, but it's all good. Thanks, Coral.
Thank
Speak
you.
soon.
Thank you,
Bye
Joanne. Take care.
bye.
Bye.
How amazing is this woman? Like, I felt like from the moment that I met her that we've been friends already for years. And I know that we're going to be friends for life now too. I hope that Coral's story inspired you, motivated you, and made you smile. You can feel the warmth of her personality when she talks, can't you? Remember, you can take a look at Coral's website or follow her on Instagram, connect with her on LinkedIn. Her website is coralturner.com. Just go and show her some love and support. She's amazing. And all the links to contact Coral and to look at her website and her social media pages, I'm going to put them all in the show notes, which is the description of this episode. So you can find them there, whatever platform it is that you're listening to this on. So next week, what are we doing? Well, I thought it'd be really helpful to talk about Christmas. I mean, it might be, it might not be, depending on how you're feeling about it. But it's time, I think, to take the bull by the horns and talk about Christmas. It's coming. It's not that far away. And I thought, for anyone that might be feeling a little bit nervous or unsure about how to tackle Christmas as a small business owner, especially if you're maybe new to the business, maybe you haven't sort of been up and running long and you need some guidance to help you prepare for it. Or even if you have done a few Christmases, maybe you'd like a fresh take on the best way to gear up for it. Because, Christmas has the potential to make you some decent money, get your name out there, and secure yourself a loyal customer base that's going to keep coming back to you like next year and the one after that and the one after that. I'm already getting emails now from people who I worked with last year and the year before, asking me to make the same thing for them that I did last year. So it's like this constant customer base. It's a great opportunity to do that. So we're going to look at exactly how to prepare for potentially your busiest season of the year, what you can make, where you can sell it, and how you can make sure that your stuff stands out. It's the one time a year that people are happy to chuck money at you to solve their gift buying problems. So we're going to get a plan together for you next week and you're going to sell some stuff. Okay, so thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really, really loved recording this episode with Coral. And yes, please do go and follow her on Instagram and on LinkedIn. She's absolutely fabulous. And I will catch you next week.